Kit,
Tyler,
Aaron, congratulations on your film here, Isabel's Garden.
Thank
thank
you
you, love. It's
so
good,
much.
good to see you, Gig.
I know it's always a pleasure to speak to you about this film, and always a pleasure to have tea with Karen again.
Ah, you got your tea.
We all
You
have our
got your
tea.
tea. We
I
all
said
have
in the
our
last, I
tea.
said, I was like, I just realized I'm seeing Karen. I had to go make tea
hmm
because
Yeah.
that's
We
Karen. You got to have tea with Karen.
we all know the story, but
Yeah. Yeah.
Kit, let me start with you first. Is where the original story came from for Isabel's Garden?
What a great question. Writers write from a personal place. I would say the original seed of the idea of the movie started from a place of fear. As a stepmom, it's often sort of unspoken about what we go through. It's a unique role. It's different than being a mom or a dad, and it has its own sort of place. I have spoken with other stepmoms before about this fear that we've dedicated our lives to this family by choice. And what happens if the person that connects you is removed? What then? What are you left with when you're not bound by blood? So that was the seed of the idea. When I started to sit down and write it, it became something much deeper and much bigger than just that. It became a movie about processing grief. It became a movie about women being there for each other. It became a movie about resilience and hope. And so a tiny little seed of an idea grew into something much more.
Well said, well said. And Karen, you always done well on choosing your roles. So tell us what initially drew you to Isabel's Garden.
You know, there's so many things, Gig, when you're reading a script. As an actor, you're looking for storylines, you're looking for character development, the narrative, the message that the movie is trying to say. And this just ticked off every box for me. As an actor, I'm always looking for the next role that's going to excite me to no end and scare me profusely in all the good ways. And this movie did all of that. I've never played a character quite like Maya. The more flawed, and in Maya's case, so charmingly flawed. And it's those characteristics about her. I love that she's so hopelessly unfiltered, even though she tries to be filtered, but she's not. I mean, you read everything on her face. She reads, so easily with her emotions. She wears them on her sleeve a little bit too openly, which you kind of love about her because she's just not perfect and she knows it, and it annoys her to no end because she's striving for that, for perfection. And um, I just love adding all these different nuances to Maya. And Kit came up with one hell of a backstory for Maya. And there's so much about Maya that I could relate to, which was escapism. And I know, growing up being bullied for many years in school, my escapism was through my art. Singing, acting, dancing was a way for me to escape from all of that. And it was a place where I felt safe. It was a place that I felt driven and very focused about wanting to do something for myself. And I feel like, Maya and I were aligned in that way. She experienced loss at a very young age, having lost her mother and, having an alcoholic father. So there's a lot of loneliness there. She had to be independent. And I loved this world that Kit created, for Maya, the magic of, celebrating that inner child in her, in all of us, where, there's so much magic in and comfort that we can find in a book, in words, in the library, in this case for Maya. And the story and all the themes that Kit had brought up. Resilience is something that I found really inspiring about the story, because that's what life is. We navigate constantly through life, through the ups and downs, twists and turns, through our our families, and the imperfections of each of our families and
Mhm.
what that means, especially during the holidays, you know. And I just love that there are so many themes about this movie that people can relate to and hopefully feel seen. So it was a no-brainer for me when I read the script. I was like, oh, I'd love to play this role. And let's just hope that Kit feels the same way too, which I'm really glad
I
that she
clearly
did.
did.
Well said. And I know Karen, many journalists will ask you is how did you get into the mental state of your character? Because she's such a flawed character going through an emotional roller coaster.
I always start every character with a music playlist, and I don't know if that's because of my music background and singing. Music has the power to just take us to a certain place, a certain time. It also has the power to just put us right in the mood. For me, it does that all the time. So after reading the script, this is my sort of way of painting. I can't paint to save my life, but if I'm going to use metaphors, it very much is like creating a portrait, a painting of the character and all the textures and the tones, some of which you see and some that you don't see, some that are hidden. And those are the nuances. That's what I love, you know, injecting in each of my characters. And so that's kind of how I approach it. I find for each scene, I would choose a song. It could be instrumental music, it could be anything from classical to jazz to whatever that suited, that came to my mind, that suited that scene. And I would play that constantly as I'm, you know, preparing for my character. And I'd always find new things, you know, just by listening to music and just putting that to each of the scenes. And then the rest is gravy, as they say. You don't want to over prepare. You know, I never like to over prepare because I love finding magic and spontaneity, especially when you're doing scene work with other actors. And what a stellar cast we have! So many insanely talented actors. And so you want to always leave room for magic and spontaneity to happen in the moment of being present. And um, you know, that's certainly what experience has taught me. You know, before, as a younger actor, I used to always get nervous because I always felt like I didn't prepare enough. I was like, oh, there's always more to do. And it was only until, you know, my mentors were saying, Karen, just trust that you've done all your homework. You know, I always approach things as like being the homework girl. They said, trust that you've done the homework. Now you've just got to let yourself go and be free and just feel everything in the moment. And that's the exciting part. And being a typical Aries girl, which Kit is as well, you know, there is excitement in metaphorically sort of jumping off the cliff and trusting that you're going to land on your feet and it's going to be a thrilling experience. So yeah, that's kind of how I approach, you know, when I'm prepping.
Well said. And Kid, what was your approach on getting everyone, this ensemble, into this mental state of grief, loss, and love?
That's a great question. I will say, as far as the casting process goes, I was very clear working with my casting director, Jeffrey Gaffner, that I was looking for actors that were not just insanely talented, but inherently sort of had these characters in them, that they knew them intuitively. So that was my first step because I knew we had such a limited time to film. So I needed to know it was already there. And then right before we started filming, we did 2 days of rehearsal. So we treated it like a play, knowing that I wouldn't have a lot of time on set. We rehearsed, and that was my opportunity to talk to the actors one on one and for them to sort of get to know each other before we actually landed on set. And I think doing that was really helpful for the process of getting them into that mindset.
Well said. Well, I appreciate you both, Kit and Karen, for speaking to us about it, especially for you, Kit, because I am so glad that this was not based on a true story because I know your husband is in the next Zoom room.
Yeah. Okay, can I say something though? When I was doing the film festival for the past year, I cannot even tell you how many people came up to me to tell me that this was their story.
Yeah.
And that broke my heart. And I feel like, and how they said that it was so helpful for them to see it on screen and that their process was almost identical. And so I'm hoping that even though, yes, thankfully, it isn't my personal story, that for those who it is their story, that I've helped them in some small way heal from from their journey. Yeah.
Well, then that's why we know that this is a powerful message for a great film. So, Kit, Karen, thank you very much, and Karen, especially you. Another episode of Tea with Karen.
I
So,
know, it's so lovely to see you. It's so lovely to see you, Gig. Gig and I saw each other. Was it last week? We were at the After Awards.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
Yeah,
That's
it was last
awesome.
week. Yeah, and it was fun. So I hope I see you soon. Come visit and talk about irrational stuff too.
we will, we will. Thank you very much.
Thank
See you, Gig.
you.